press play and like see what happened.
Do we really know what happened? We're both into like true crimes.
That's gonna be our theme song. It'll be just a silent recording of me going, ooh, and it'll be flat and out of tune every time.
That's good. This is Murdery, Murdery. Sorry, that's a Family Guy reference. if you didn't get it. 4 guys sitting in armchairs behind their newspapers.
Yeah.
So you didn't get it either.
No. You were totally on your own there.
That's how we said hi this time.
Hi.
Hey.
You're listening to Mystery Murdery Thingy.
With Chloe.
Oh yeah, that's me.
Is you, and Mario. That's me.
Mario.
Right.
I'm Chloe. And you're Mario.
Oh yeah.
That's how it
goes. Now I remember.
Do you understand
the person I am?
What's going on in this situation?
Somebody made the Luigi joke to me today.
Oh God.
And they were like, "Oh my God, have you ever heard that before?" And I was, of course, jokingly, I was like, "Yeah, no, never in my life." And he was like, "Really?" Like, no, yeah, like a billion times.
What a guy.
My entire life.
He's trying.
Yeah.
He's trying.
He was a very jolly gentleman, so I appreciated his gregariousness.
Jolly gentleman.
The Jolly Gentleman, I feel like
The Jolly Giant?
No, but I feel like the Jolly Gentleman should be like an English pub, right?
Sure.
And on the sign outside, it would be like a guy just like downing a beer. Is that,
okay.
No? Didn't get your...
Didn't
get your interest?
I think the aesthetic fits.
Maybe it would be...
I understand what you're trying to go for.
Right. Maybe it would be a pub in British Columbia. Segue. Because I'm doing a thing in British Columbia. Mostly.
Okay. Are you doing a mystery, a murdery, or a thingy?
I am doing sort of a mystery. It might be a little bit murdery, but some of it is definitely not murdery. Or at least that's what they think. So, I'm going to go first. And my mystery is the mystery of the Salish Sea human feet discoveries. So this, I know you said you were thinking about doing this one too.
The severed feet, yes.
Yes, the Salish Sea severed human feet discoveries. Only feet, which is more, like probably the weirdest part about it. So this is a phenomenon that's been going on for the past about 10 years in this part of British Columbia, which is the west coast of Canada, just right north of Washington. What?
Oh, no, nothing. I'm thinking of New England.
No, yeah, this is the opposite side of the country as New England. So basically there's like the state of Washington, and there's islands and just kind of like sounds and bays and so forth.
Pretty.
Right, a really beautiful area, very wooded, a place that people like to visit and, like travel to and run around and play on the beach and so forth. And one of the things that is now a somewhat banal occurrence, because it's happened so many times, is one of those seafarers or beach runners or tourists will find a severed human foot. Or maybe even a bit of a leg, too.
That's so
that
weird.
Was the most recent one, was like... And they were showing, like, in some of the pictures, it was, like, blurred out. But in some of them, it was, like, totally not.
Ew!
And it is just, like, a bleached, what I don't even know, shin bone or whatever, technical term
Aren't
would
they
be.
all tennis shoes?
They're not all tennis shoes, but they are almost all tennis shoes.
Okay.
There have been a couple that have been found just barefooted, but both in the same year, actually, which is a weird thing. And there have been a few that have been in, like, hiking boots. But for the most part, they have been... and of course, by they, I mean the severed human feet, which have been, fairly continuously washing ashore on a few particular shores and islands in mostly British Columbia, but a few of them have also been found further south in the state of Washington. And so it's 18 overall. 13 just in the ones that have gone on British Columbia. Now, 4 of those were from 2 people. So in other words, and I'll get sort of into this with the timeline I'm going to do in a minute. But not the same place. And not at the same time.
Oh, that's
like
very weird.
Years apart.
What?
Yeah. So, okay, I'm just going to do a little bit of background first. Okay. And then we're going to get into, like, the trends, which is basically, like, a timeline as well. So the first one was discovered on August 20th, 2007.
Okay.
And by first, I mean the first of, like, this run of, 18 that have been found, right? So there were ones that were found in the past, particularly in 1887 and also in 1914. Mm-hmm. And both of those were like legs in a boot. In fact, there's a particular place where basically this foot was found in 1887 that they called Leg in Boot Square. So that's just, like, apparently how much these people who live around Vancouver, like, don't give a fuck. They're like, oh, severed human foot. Let's call this place the Severed Human Foot Place.
I mean, what else?
I love it.
What else can you do? Like,
I know, right? Run with it. Pun intended.
Oh, God.
Pun fucking intended. So, like I said, these are found on the coasts, mostly of what's called the Salish Sea, which is in British Columbia, but also the northern, part of Washington. And the last of them was found on December 8th, 2017. So, not that long ago.
Yeah.
Like, whatever, 5 months ago or something. So,
no, way less than that. It's only February.
3 months ago. I'm not good at math.
Why do people brag about not being good at math? Being good at math is the brag.
You're right. But it comes from a deep-seated place of jealousy.
All right.
I think that's, if I were to psychoanalyze myself and all these other people to whom you're referring, that's what I would say. It would definitely be, yeah. I'll admit it.
That makes sense.
If you're going to be petty, at least be honest.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
But don't be both. Right? I mean, come on. You're going too far. Okay, so like I said, last one, December 8th, 2017. And by that point, people were, like, I said, like, pretty not fazed by this. Like, there's this particular guy was quoted in a news article. His name's Joshua Constantinu, I assume is how you say that, who apparently owns, like, a local cafe in that area. And he said, at the beginning, it seemed more strange, but now it happens so many times. Is that a good Canadian accent?
Not at all.
Good. I didn't mean it to be.
That was like Chicago.
Yeah. Here, let me try it again. Okay, so this Bears. So this is Corporal. Also, I wanted to read a quote from Corporal Gary Cox of the Oceanside Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Wow.
Which is like their version of like the FBI.
That is the title.
I know, right? And this is quoted in the Vancouver Sun from August of 2007. So this is when there had been maybe like 7 or something like that. So he says, finding 1 foot is like 1,000,000 to 1 odds. But to find 2 is crazy, I've heard of dancers with 2 left feet, but come on.
Oh my god!
I know. I also felt like that was like kind of insensitive to like these people. Like he's like making a joke out of their severed human feet. But like I said, people can get used to anything.
I like that the quote is like that, so it fit with your weird accent voice.
Exactly.
It's a very personable quote.
When I was reading it before, I was like, oh, I have to read this in a bad Canadian accent just to make it more personal.
It wasn't. It's not. Sorry, keep going.
Okay. According to the coroner, and I don't really feel like this is true, they determined that none of them was murdered. But
how can you tell?
Well, some of it, we'll get into, some of it's based on timelines and the DNA evidence of, they found out some of who these people actually were, and some of them had gone missing or things of that nature. But really they can't tell that conclusively, because some of them are just like way too,
Have they found anybody who's alive and he's like, oh my god, you found my foot, and he's like been living.
I've been looking for that foot. So particularly, there was a guy in July whose foot rather was found in July 2008. And he was identified by DNA, and they said that it was a man who had been apparently known to be severely depressed, and they believe that he committed suicide. And that's what they said for a few of these, that it's like people who were known to be kind of suicidal, and they may have jumped off a bridge or just kind of walked into the ocean.
Oh, shit.
So that's kind of the theory on some of them. But I'll kind of get into the trends now. So the first two were found in 2007. They were found 6 days apart, I believe in August. And the first one, and I knew you'd like this, it was a girl who was on vacation, just walking on the beach, and found a severed human foot.
My dream. It is my dream.
That's your dream.
I just wanted to have it. I'd rather have it be a full dead body, though.
I know, you've said that many times, and it is creepy.
I would be like,
that's good.
Oh my god, you guys.
Yep, exactly. You'd be like the little...
Officers.
You'd be like the little kid in Stand By Me, and you'd be like, hey, we should go on a trip.
Yeah.
You guys want to see a dead body?
You guys... I said that to Gianna today.
What did she say?
She was like, how am I supposed to answer that?
Yeah, that's a good answer.
I love her.
One was found in an Adidas running shoe, and the other was found in a Reebok. And the shoes were made in 2003 and 2004, respectively. And the Adidas apparently was only really distributed in India. Huh. And we'll cycle back to that fact. That will become very important for one of the theories of where these bodies came from. So just tuck that away. 5 of them were found in 2008, from February to November. The first 3 that were found were all male. The first 4 that were found were all right feet. And they've been mostly right feet that have been found. Like I said earlier, there were 2 people whose both of their feet were found. So the 2 feet of the same man were found 4 years apart. Who had died 4 years earlier, were found on February 8th and June 16th, respectively. So in the same year, but in different places.
Okay.
And then the foot of the same woman was found on May 22nd and November 11th. So I was wrong when I said years earlier. They were both found several months apart in different places. There was then one severed foot which washed up on the shore in 2009. Like I said, virtually all of them were in running shoes up to this point. And the male was thought to have died of natural causes in January of 2008. 2 of them were found in 2010, and these are the ones that were found the one was found not in a shoe, and was probably a small woman's or a female child's, and had probably been in the water for about 2 months. The male's was probably a male child's, was found in a hiking boot in 2010. So those were a little bit different. 3 of them were found in 2011. One was identified as this man named Stefan Zahorushko, I believe is how you would say that. And he was basically a local fisherman who went missing in 1987. And in December, a leg bone and foot were also found in a black plastic bag under a bridge. That's the one that's very different to me, because that's the only one where I ever saw any reference to it being in anything, right? As opposed to just a shoe. Yeah. You know, the reason that they're floating up, obviously, is because they're in shoes, for the most part. Clearly that's the case. If it were just a severed human foot, they would sink. So that's not really that mysterious, but the fact that it's just feet is really weird. And this one that was found in a black plastic bag, just like, that one gives me the creeps.
That one is probably murdered.
That one seems like they were murdered.
Yeah.
You know, of all of them, that's the one where you could say, like, this was probably murder.
Wow.
So it seems like there is at least one there. And then there was only one in 2012, none in 2013, one in 2014, two in 2016, one in 2017. So 18 in all, 13 in British Columbia. The one that was found... Oh, this is where different years comes in. There was one that was found in 2016 that also matches one that was found in 2012.
Okay.
Right. So there have also been some hoaxes.
Do they have, like, a museum?
I wouldn't think so, no. I'm fairly certain that they're probably keeping these in a non-public setting. Although, when I wanted to watch a documentary about this, but it was, you'd have to buy the DVD. But the preview for it, or whatever, showed what they called the Bone Yard or something, which is like this place in Tennessee where they investigate the decaying of human bodies for forensic purposes. And they were showing this guy who's an entomologist who basically his job is so they bring the dead body there and they just leave it out, as if it were in the middle of the woods, but it's this place where they train.
They're studying it or something?
Where they're studying it, exactly. Yeah. And they just let stuff happen, right? So they're showing this on camera where it's just like covered in maggots.
Ew!
Right? And then
oh my God,
calmly
no.
explaining how this entomologist, whose job this is, sees, okay, the maggot larva is at this stage, and the body is, whatever at this level of decay. Oh, they died, 2 months ago. But
to develop the timeline.
Exactly.
Well,
but
that's important work.
It's extremely important, but for almost everyone in humanity, the first reaction to that is, oh God, no, oh, ugh. But the person who wants to be that forensic entomologist is like, cool. Yeah. I want to know. I want to be that guy. So I just thought that was kind of cool.
Very unique job.
Exactly. That is true. So, like I said, there have been some hoaxes. Unfortunately, people kind of just like taking advantage of this situation to try to freak people out or whatever. So there was an animal paw that was found in a shoe in 2008. Yeah. Hopefully the animal died of natural causes. I hope. There were a number of rather running shoes full of raw meat.
Ew.
In 2011 that kept washing on to the shores. Yeah, pretty terrible. Really.
How bored do you have to be?
Do they not got the internet in British Columbia in 2011 or something? Like, I don't understand. You don't got better shit to do than buy raw meat, fill shoes with it, and throw it into the ocean. In the hopes that, what?
Maybe it was a dog toy, and it went, I don't know.
Let's hope. Not a great dog toy.
Sense of something really dumb.
Yeah, but yes. So, like I said, one of the weirdest things is that there have been no other body parts washing up.
Yeah.
Now, like I said earlier, part of the reason for that is probably that they are in shoes. And this process of them getting detached from the body itself is apparently pretty easy and well understood that that's what happens if you have a human body that's in a body of water, over the course of months to, I guess they said a few days actually to a few months, that the extremities are going to tend to detach just because the ankles and the wrists, it's a weak point. So as the body decays and the foot actually tends to make this substance that helps this to happen, that's kind of like lye, the limbs will detach.
That's
so the extremities.
Gross.
Yes, but it's also, that's how human bodies work when they're dead. It is also just like a scientific thing. We're talking about severed human body parts today, because that's what I picked. So you're going to talk about it. So, like I said, probably the reason why it's mostly feet is that they're in shoes. to be honest, to not, kind of make too much of it. But that no other body part has ever been found to wash up, that is pretty crazy. And that it's happened all in this one area.
Were there any that were found that were clearly this was like chopped off or something?
No, that's a really good question. No, none of what I read mentioned anything, and in fact, some of them mentioned specifically that they had not been found with, any sort of ligature marks or cutting, that clearly the detachment of them from the ones that were in a good enough condition that you could tell were from that natural detachment from decay.
I wonder why they're all showing up in that same area, though.
There are some theories about that as well. Although the currents can be unpredictable in this area, they do tend to bring things in from the ocean. Just the way the currents work, it kind of cycles into this area. Or there's also a kind of a larger ocean current that cycles into this area from about 1,000 miles away, apparently. So, but again, there are other areas of the world, and I'm sure maybe they do have stuff like this, but I feel like this is the most famous one, or it's the only one that I've ever heard of.
What about the shoe in India?
Well, it wasn't in India per se. It was a shoe that had been distributed in India, and then the foot was found in British Columbia with the foot inside of it.
Oh.
So what they think is that some of these people could have been victims of the 2004 tsunami.
Oh.
Which I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I was reading the Wikipedia page. I think it said it was a consequence of the third largest seismic event ever recorded, and it was just such a terrible disaster through over a dozen countries. Thousands and thousands of people dying and affected by it, hundreds of thousands, I'm sure. So they think some of this could have been victims of that, and the one shoe from India that had washed ashore, that it probably originated from India, I think lends credence to that theory.
Yeah.
Because India was one of the countries affected, and, who knows, But I also don't think they all come from one source. I think that's probably pretty clear, too. So there are other theories about where they could have come from. There was, a plane crash that happened in 2005, where these 4 guys died and their bodies were never recovered. So they think some of them could have probably been from that. But some of them, like I said, could have been from foul play too. We really don't know, So there was also a guy who, like I said before, was a fisherman who went missing. They think it could have had to do with... One of them could have been him too. So yeah, I think that was pretty much it. So, the fact that it's all happening within this 10-year period.
Yeah, that's also...
In this one place, and that it's all feet. Just any one of those things within itself might not be that weird or mysterious, but all 3 of those combining seems very, very unusual. And there were, people who they were questioning about it, in some of the stories were talking about how this is 1 in a million, or more, chance that this could keep happening in this one place. So I don't know. No one knows. But
cool.
My prediction, we will get another severed human foot.
Wow.
That's my prediction.
Makes you think that?
It's if past is precedent, then that will occur.
Okay.
Now, of course, or it could never happen again. Who knows? So I got a lot of my stuff, and I just had a few sources this time from Wikipedia, from obviously the Salish Sea Human Foot Discoveries Wikipedia page, and also Matthew Hogg at the New York Times and Yanan Wang at the Washington Post.
Very nice.
Yes. So that was the Salish Sea Human Severed Feet Discoveries. Dun dun dun. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
It's my turn.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm doing a murdery.
Good.
Mystery.
one more prediction. My next one will include a murder.
Okay.
a positive, definitely happened murder. Because it's been, like, ever since the first one for me. Okay, go. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, I'm doing the mystery of Dyatlov Pass. Dyatlov, I think, is how you say it. I looked it up and I forgot already. It was like Dyatlov.
That's okay.
Dyatlov Pass. So basically on February 1st, 1959, 10 grad students from the Ural Polytechnic Institute in Russia went on a ski hiking trip in the Ural Mountains in Siberia. They were expected back February 12th, but they never returned. The goal of this, their like overall goal of their 14-day expedition was to reach a mountain called Otorten, which ended up being 6 miles north of the site of the incident. So this route at that season was estimated as Category 3, aka it's the most difficult to navigate in the terrain and stuff. So a student named Igor Dyatlov was the leader of the group. Him and all the other members were experienced in long ski tours and mountain expeditions, so they knew what they were doing. Okay, so I'm going to talk about, like, the basic timeline and then, like, more about the injuries and stuff, because that's where things get the most interesting. So... Okay. The group arrived by train at Ivdel, a city at the center of the northern province of Sverdlovsk Oblast, on January 25th. They then took a truck to Vizay, I'm not sure how to say that.
I don't know.
Vizay, the last inhabited settlement so far north. And they started their march toward the mountain from Vizay, where they took the bus to, on January 27th. The next day, one of the members, Yuri Yudin, was forced to go back because of he like got sick, like, on his way over there. So little did he know this catastrophe would happen. So he was like the 10th person. There were 10 of them that went, and one of them left early.
He was left to tell the tale.
Well, he wasn't. Nothing had happened yet. And
okay.
This is just their journey too. So, we know a lot of, like, what, even though everybody died, we know a lot of what happened because there were diaries and cameras found around their last camp. Mm-hmm. And so that's what made it possible to track their route up to the day preceding the incident.
Uh-huh.
But there's still one camera missing to this day.
Mm.
So during these few days, no one knows, like, what really happened. All we know is that something went horribly wrong, and we end up with 9 dead bodies. So, on February 1st, the team gets a late start, goes 500 meters off their planned route, and they pitch their tent on the north slope, which nowadays is called Dyatlov Pass. According to the autopsy reports, they all died in a mysterious way the next day, February 2nd. Although they were expected to be back by the 12th, their leader Igor Dyatlov, sent a telegram to Yuri, the dude who was sick, saying that they expect to be back late. And this was also something that was common during expeditions like this, to be back a couple days later than planned.
Sure.
So there wasn't, like, an immediate search party or an immediate, like, panic when, like, a couple days later there, like, was no sign.
Right.
So there actually wasn't a search party sent out for the students until the 20th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. On the 26th, it took a long time for them to find.
So you said the incident itself happened on the 7th, right?
On the 2nd.
On the 2nd? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So even longer than I was thinking.
So they took off about January 27th.
Okay.
And their tent was pitched February 1st.
Mm.
So, here's what happened. On the 26th of February, the abandoned and badly damaged tent was found by the rescuers. Mikhail Sharavin, the student who found the tent, said that Quote, the tent was half torn down and covered with snow. It was empty and all the group's belongings and shoes had been left behind, end quote. Investigators said that the tent had been cut open from the inside and that skiers, and that they had fled in socks or they fled barefoot. There were a chain of 8 or 9 sets of footprints left by several people who were wearing socks, a single shoe or barefoot. These footprints could be followed and led down towards the edge of nearby woods, but after about 500 meters, they ended up being covered with snow. So at the forest edge, under a large old cedar tree, so we have the tent, footsteps leading all the way to an old cedar tree. The search party found the remains of a fire along with the first 2 bodies, those of Yuri Krivoshenko and Yuri Doroshenko, shoeless and dressed only in their underwear. The branches on the tree were broken up to 5 meters high, suggesting that the skiers had climbed up the tree to look for something, perhaps to see how far they were from camp. Forensic tests later confirmed that traces of skin were found embedded in the bark, indicating that the pair had frantically tried to climb the tree as though like they were being chased by something.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, snapping off branches until their hands were a mass of pulpy flesh.
But they didn't talk about any, like, animal footprints or anything, right? Because that's what I was thinking, like, oh shit, a bear's coming.
Yeah.
But they clearly would have been able to see that.
Something scared them.
Yeah.
Something happened.
Right.
The medical examiner recorded that some of the corpses had livor mortis on the front, and given that such marks always form on the side of a body that has been pressed against the ground, this indicated that someone had turned them over after death. So on February 27th, the next day after the first 2 bodies were found, between the cedar and the tent, the searchers found the leader, Igor Dyatlov, and Zinaida Kolmogorova. And 6 days later, on March 5th, Rustem Slobodin. The 3 seemed to have died in poses suggesting that they were attempting to go back to the tent. A medical examination found no injuries, which might have led to their deaths, and it was concluded that they had died of hypothermia. Slobodin had a small crack in his skull, but it was not thought to be a fatal wound. A legal inquest started immediately after finding the first 5 bodies. Searching the remaining 4 travelers took more than 2 months. So they first found those 2 bodies in one day, and then the next day they found another 3, and then it took 2 more months for them to find the other ones.
Wow.
Yeah. So the next 4 bodies were found on May 5th under 4 meters of snow in a ravine farther into the woods. So these 4 were better dressed than the others, and there were signs that those who had died first had apparently relinquished their clothes to the others, which obviously to stay alive. They just kept like bundling up, like one person died and they took their clothes.
Right.
Zolotaryov was wearing Dubinina's faux fur coat and hat, while her foot was wrapped in a piece of Krivoshenko's wool pants. An examination of the 4 bodies found in May changed everything. It was these 4 bodies that they found 2 months later that were different. It's here when things get fishy. 3 of them had fatal injuries instead of hypothermia. They had a different cause of death. The body of Thibaut Brinoles had major skull damage, and both Dubinina and Zolotaryov had major chest fractures. According to the medical examiner, the force required to cause such damage according to the doctor, the force required to cause damage that would have been due to extremely high pressure. He compared it to the force of a car crash. Notably, the bodies had no external wounds either, as though they were crippled by a high level of pressure. So Dubinina was found to be missing her tongue as well. The group clearly realized their threats and did everything they could to preserve themselves. Like, it's according to the evidence, the tent was cut from the inside in multiple places. They were barefoot. They didn't bring their supplies with them. They had provisions a couple miles the other way that they left there earlier for them to come back to, but they didn't go that way for some reason.
So it sounds to me like either they were being chased, and so they were forced to go in the opposite direction, or they had some kind of psychosis.
Yeah.
Presumably brought on by hypothermia, which will have that effect on people, right? Where they get that weird thing where you, like, feel really hot, but you're, like, actually, like, dying of cold.
Yeah.
So you, like, rip off your clothes and, like, run into the snow.
Yeah.
Because you, like, think that you're overheating. I don't know if they think maybe that could have been part of it. But then why were they, getting hypothermia in the first place if they were inside of their tents? That's what doesn't really make sense about it.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, what made them do that? So I'm going to read a little bit of each of the victims, of what they were wearing and their cause of death, just because, like, each one's very different. So this is based on when they were found. So the Yuris, Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko, they were both, their cause of death was both hypothermia. They were both barefoot. Igor, their leader, Igor Dyatlov, hypothermia. He also wasn't wearing any shoes. Zinaida Komogorova, hypothermia. She wasn't wearing any shoes, but she was also found better dressed than the other hikers. And then Rustam Slobodin, hypothermia, but he also had a fractured skull. Multiple areas of edema and abrasions on his face and his arms. And he was also found better dressed than the other hikers, and he had one boot on. Lyudmila Dubinina, she was one of two of the bodies where radiation was found on the sweaters and the pants, which is very odd.
Yeah.
They found traces of radiation on her sweater and Alexander Kolevatov's sweater as well. Dubinina...
Sounds like a radioactive werewolf was after them.
That's what it was.
Is that what it ends up being?
Yeah, a radioactive fucking werewolf.
Guessed it. Yeah.
There's lots of theories. But she died of major chest fractures, and she was missing her tongue, her eyes, part of her lips, as well as facial tissue and a fragment of skull bone. And the tongue was removed while she was still alive. So that's some weird shit.
Jesus Christ. Sounds like Lavinia syndrome.
Semyon Zolar...
It's a Titus Andronicus reference.
Who?
Titus Andronicus.
Titus Andronicus?
Shakespeare.
Shakespeare?
Sorry, go on. I'll stop interrupting you now.
Who's I'm just kidding. Okay.
Shakespeare.
My main man, Willie Shakes.
Right.
I call him Willie Shakes.
I call him Billy Shakes because we know each other better than you know him.
Wow. All right. Anyway, back to these victims.
Okay, go ahead.
Semyon Zolotaryov. He was also, his cause of death was also major chest fractures, and his eyeball was missing. And then Nikolai Thibault-Brignoles had major skull damage, multiple fractures to the side of his skull that would have made him unable to move. So everybody had something weird about it. Mm-hmm. So that's why this is such a weird thing, and they don't know what caused them the initial scare, and they don't know. I think the weirdest part of it is that the cuts were from the inside of the tent. So here are a list of theories, and then I'm going to go on and talk about my favorite ones.
Okay.
So, theories. KGB agents were involved. One theory. Two theory. The hikers were mistaken for escaped prisoners from a gulag prison. Third, the indigenous Mansi people who lived on the mountain killed the hikers because they were trespassing on holy land. It's interesting because there were pictures of their markings on trees and stuff. Another theory is there was an avalanche. Another theory is that a UFO scared the group away. Another theory, which I like because it parallels to our last episode, infrasound. Another one was gravity fluctuation. Another one was lightning balls, like balls of lightning.
Right, lightning.
Which also the Mansi people had been victims of, but they also were much more knowledgeable of them.
Sure.
it was almost part of their culture.
Well, in some areas of the world, it's a pretty regular occurrence, isn't it? I mean, it looks really weird, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the KGB agents. Alexei Rakitin, author of the book Dyatlov Pass, says that one of the victims, Alexander Zolortyov, he was someone who had radiation on his jacket, and Yuri Krivonishenko were KGB. Oh no, sorry. Let me start over. Zolotaryov, Alexander Kolevatov, and Yuri Krivonishenko were KGB agents, and they were on a mission to uncover a cell of CIA agents. They were to deliver radioactive samples and then take photographs of the Americans, but something went wrong and the CIA agents killed the group. According to this theory, 2 or more members of the Dyatlov group were hired by the KGB to deliver fake proof of radioactive tainted clothes. The rest of the group was probably unaware of the real purpose of these 3 KGB, their journey. The author, Rakitin, his version is one which is pretty popular. Like, his theory is pretty popular because it's logical in terms of explanation of the most mysterious issues, like the radioactive clothes, the absence of shoes and upper garments, and the fact that one of the cameras was missing. So...
And it would also explain the cut from the inside.
Yes.
Because it was literally an inside job, right?
Yes. There's also some weird details about the skiers themselves that give rise to a Cold War spy type, scenario.
Sure.
Alexander Zolotaryov, again, one of the hikers, had radiation on his sweater, was a 37-year-old bachelor and instructor at a remote tourist center who joined the group at last minute. He was a veteran with years of combatant experience who fought for the NKVD and bore an enigmatic tattoo, Dermowazuwaya. Until this day, the word remains untranslated into any known language, so nobody knows what the hell that it means, but it's weird. Anyway, Dermowazuwaya. Until this day, the word remains untranslated into any known language. Archives of the Ural Polytechnic Institute revealed a remarkable detail about another hiker, the other Alexander Kolevatov, before transferring to the physics technical department at the university. He worked in Moscow as a lab assistant in a top secret scientific facility, an unarmed atomic institute known as P.O. Box number 3394. And the third person that they accused of being a KGB agent, Yuri Krivonishenko, worked in the plant Mayak in Chelyabinsk, where a massive nuclear disaster, second in severity only to Chernobyl, occurred in 1957.
Right.
Researcher, the author, Alexei Rakitin, is certain that this peculiar fellowship was not gathered by whim of chance. So this weird little trio was not an accident. Behind the biographies of these 3 dudes, brooding shadow of the KGB is distinct. So they think that the true objective of the ski trek, unbeknownst to everybody else, was to deliver radioactive samples to a group of agents of the CIA to take pictures of the spies. And the other hikers, who I guess were thought to be the CIA, had been under the guise of ordinary tourists camping at the mountain. The meeting took place on February 1st, but something went wrong, and the Americans realized that the trio was playing a double game. A conflict ensued, a fight, torture, and the brutal massacre of the entire group.
Seems pretty plausible.
And the second one, infrasound.
I mean, the CIA has done a lot of fucked up shit. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, yeah. Very true.
Up to and including at any point.
God.
To today.
I mean, who even knows, right? Infrasound. The infrasound theory. So, as part of a technological theory, there have been suggestions of an infrasound that might have been responsible for sudden, unpleasant feelings among the tourists. So, there's new research into rare weather phenomena. Every time somebody says phenomena, I'm like,
I know.
Phenomena. Okay, sorry. has suggested that a perfect storm could have struck the campers in the night, panicking them so much that they would have fled the tent and fallen victim to the brutal cold before they came to their senses. This dude named Donnie Eicher, who spent 5 years researching this whole thing, and then he undertook the dangerous trek himself, believes that a wind phenomenon called a Kármán vortex street could have produced a terrifying, like, powerful sound, which, like we discussed before, is proven to induce irrational fear in humans.
Right.
Due to the unique topography of the mountain, which is a perfect dome shape, the fierce winds that blow through the pass could have been warped as they like struck the surface. So the wind, which was blowing in a straight line, would be twisted instead into a series of small but powerful tornadoes, which would tear down either side of the pass. So the tornado, spinning fast enough to tear roofs off buildings, would have created a deafening noise, and even if that would be the infrasound. So even if they missed the tent, even if they like missed the tents, they still would have like heard this.
Right.
So blah blah, infrasound, opposite of ultrasound, frequency low, it's so low it can't be picked up by the human ear, causes that vibration. Studies have shown it can cause loss of sleep, shortness of breath, and extreme dread.
Yeah, and like we talked about last time, at some frequencies, it can also cause hallucinations. So, who's to say they couldn't have been maybe running away, at least those two initial ones, right? Running away from something that wasn't even there.
Yeah.
But that they saw because they heard something that they couldn't really hear. Like, it's all very strange.
Those were the two theories that I found the most plausible, the most interesting. There were some other weirder ones.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because there's no witnesses. There's just they just have this evidence, this tent, basically, and
so really
the diaries.
You can speculate all you want.
Yeah. The others were found there were the 2 bodies that they found. The 4 bodies that they found in those 2 days, and then the ones that were found months later were actually found in like a little den that they made for themselves to keep themselves away from the wind and the cold.
Right.
And there were like branches on the ground, and it was like a little like dome. So what do you think happened, Mario?
The KGB, CIA connection definitely seems like the most.
I think that's the one you want to believe the most, because those are the ones you're most interested in.
That's true. I'll be self-aware enough to admit, yes, that is, Okay, you ready for some weird shit in the news? And then I'm going to do some good shit in the news, too.
All right, you go first.
Okay, so my weird shit in the news is a USA Today story. Headline is, Arizona mom wakes up with British accent. She's never left the U.S.
She's faking it.
So that's what you would think, right? But she's not. But really.
Okay,
but
explain.
I assure you that she actually is not. So this is a story by Ashley May over at USA Today. So there is a real proven syndrome that is called foreign accent syndrome, which is a real thing. Now, I know you're giving me a very skeptical look, and I know if anyone's actually listening to this, they're thinking, no, that's bullshit, but it is real. And this person, her name's Michelle Myers, lives in Arizona, but she's a former Texas beauty queen, so I was definitely, predisposed to like her. Says that she's actually had 3 accent changes in the past due to this syndrome. And they all started with an extreme headache and ended in a bizarre change in speech. First Irish, then Australian, and now British. And according to her and her doctors, it is completely involuntary. In fact, they showed her, because I watched a little...
Do they have her, brain patterns and stuff?
No. I was just going to say I watched a local news segment where they were showing her a video of her beforehand, of her just, talking in her normal voice, before this happened. And she was, tearing up. she was, like, getting really emotional, and she was talking about it, you know, she was like, I know people won't believe me. Like, all I want to do is to be taken, like, seriously, that I have this illness. It was, like, actually really sad.
Oh.
But, I mean, she's also not dying from it, so, I mean... But she does have a lot of other issues. Like, she has really painful joints stuff, and they think that might be part of what brings it about. And there have only been about 100 known confirmed cases of this ever happening in the past 100 years.
Wow.
But there have been, like, 100 cases that have been documented. And usually it comes after, like, a head injury or a stroke or some other kind of, like, severe, you know, disease.
I mean, out of all the things that could happen to you after a stroke, that's certainly an easy way out.
Well, you know, I mean, it's, I guess, a type of, like, kind of aphasia or something, you know? Like, when you have a stroke... Sometimes people will, you know, it's like my grandma, my mom's mom, when she had a stroke, she would, like, say a word, and she would think she was saying the right word, but it was a completely different word. But in your head, you think you're saying, like, what you think you're saying, but it comes out like baseball nose plugs strawberry, you know, it's like...
What?
Bears no resemblance to anything that you were trying to say.
That's so weird.
Or there's different kinds of it, but, you know, maybe, I don't know, it has something to do with that, so I'm not totally sure. But I thought that was pretty weird. Pretty weird. So this is my good shit in the news. The headline from People magazine is Gay Veterans, ages 172, share story of coming out and falling in love in nursing home.
Aww.
By Maria Peschini. I know. I was thinking about this. Like, what is, other than a good dog, is cuter than, like, two old people in love? You know, and that it's like two old gay veterans in love. Just, I think, like, makes it that much. Like,
I love
better.
it. I'm seeing rainbow.
And they were talking about how they, like, met in the nursing home. You know, obviously they were already, like, really old, but this was, like, 25 years ago. And they eventually, like, had a kind of, like, a marriage ceremony, you know, before it was, like, legal. And they were, like, kind of nervous, you know, because... But they said, like, everyone was super positive. And the, like, one of their fellow people who lived there even, like, introduced, like, this is so-and-so and his husband, da-da-da. And the guy was like, no one had ever said that before, you know?
Aww.
But yeah, and just the fact that it was, like, this 100-year-old guy. And so, you know, it's just, like, I just love that people get to have the chance at love. Even if it's, like, in your golden years. Like, finally we got to a place where, like, you could just fucking have a boyfriend and then marry him. Like, no one's gonna give a shit, because why should they ever have? Because it was always so fucking stupid. But I just really liked that.
How am I supposed to follow that, Mario?
Well. With aplomb.
So I found... all I have is weird news. All I have is weird news.
That's okay. That's okay. I think good shit in the news will only be when we see something that's, like, particularly worthy of calling it out.
Okay, that makes sense. So I found here. Okay, here's the title. Doctor finds 263 coins, 100 nails. Inside man complaining of stomach pain.
Oh my god.
So.
Was his name Ed Gein?
Okay, so here's what happened. This is like the guy comes in, he's complaining of stomach pain. They get an endoscopy?
Yes.
Endoscopy. And, you know, they find all this crap.
Right.
So here's what the doctors say. They say, usually people start eating abnormal things under certain psychological conditions. He had been eating metal for a year but did not tell anybody. Normally there is no problem until these particles start obstructing the intestines. In this case, the problems had started.
Yeah, I bet.
So...
fucking bet.
That's just about... I guess that's about it.
Wow.
Yeah, just this dude ingesting metal.
So it's kind of like one of those episodes of My Strange Addiction.
Yeah.
But it was swallowing metal. Well, you know... That's people.
They prevented any damage. There was no bleeding or anything.
Really? So
Yeah.
he was okay.
He was. He's stable.
Wow.
They caught it early enough, I guess. But
good for him.
Oh,
Live
man,
your
my
dream, buddy.
stomach, it really hurts. Why? I don't know. What'd you have for breakfast? Some nails.
I thought, my doctor said I needed more iron. That was terrible. That was a bad joke. Sorry. I apologize for that joke.
I like the quarters the best.
Right.
They're the most satisfying. I don't know how much...
that's a good quarter.
Wonder what kind of trip to the toilet that is. Eh?
An
Buddy, old
expensive
pal?
one.
Oh, God.
Cha-ching.
It's time to end the podcast.
I've made my second corny joke of the last 2 minutes.
Second?
Of the last 2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay, alright.
So, yeah, it's probably
I was like,
Probably ready to wrap. Hey, I didn't say it my whole life, okay?
Alright,
Okay.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for... We never say that.
No, I say it.
Okay, good. You're the one who's nice. Please subscribe.
Rate.
Please rate us.
That would be so cool.
We'd love to actually... And we should be getting an actual banner image soon.
Oh, yeah.
So, I have confirmed with our in-house illustrator.
In-house illustrator?
My friend Brendan, who has said that once he's done with his actually paying projects, he'll get to us. And we thank him dearly for it.
Yay.
Yes. So hopefully we'll have a real image soon.
We're going to be a real podcast.
And then we'll buy an actual... Yeah, we'll be on Patreon soon, so you can give us money so we can get an actual microphone so we sound better. So...
That's the goal.
That should be coming soon.
That's the small goal right now.
That is our dream, to actually record onto an actual microphone.
Yep.
Not my iPhone.
And to keep our consistency on Wednesdays.
Yes.
Tune in on Wednesdays.
It's 9:27 p.m. on a Tuesday.
You know what, Mario? They need to know that.
So we're doing pretty well.
We are. You're gonna mess it all up. Good job by you. Oh God. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.